Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. Today we are going to talk about barriers of communication. If we see this phrase, it's combination of two major words. One is barrier and the other one is communication. So, to understand what are barriers of communication, we have to understand these two words first. Barrier and communication. Let's see what we have. Our question is what is communication? In simple words, communication is a process in which we transfer or we exchange information from one person to another person in order to create understanding. So, in communication process, what we want to achieve that our respondent or our receiver must understand what we are saying. Now let's see what is barrier in general. Barrier is a blockage, something that blocks movement, that is called barrier in general words. Now see what is communication barrier. That is important. So communication barrier means anything that stops communication, that creates misunderstanding. That is basically barrier. So let's see. See, communication is a process. What kind of process it is? It is a complex process. It is not a simple process. It is not as simple as it looks, that you are saying something and the other person understands it. Okay, both are happy and both are fine. No, it's not the case. Always remember that communication is a complex process in which you are not sure that meaning is exactly received. No one can claim that the message he has shared or she has shared or transferred with other people or to other people is understood 100%ly. Why is it so? It is because in the world there are not two people who think alike. Everyone thinks in his or her own way, right? People think differently. So, because of this difference in thinking, what happens? Meaning is not 100%ly understood. There may be chances that your message is understood 80%, 70%, 60%, 50%. So the proportion that is not understood, that proportion is called loss of meaning, and we also call it noise. Or that noise is basically a barrier. That noise is a barrier. That noise is also called a fall off. We also call it distortion. We also call it interference. All right? Remember, there are different barriers, like you are not good at speaking, you are not good at grammar, you're not good at punctuation, right? These are also barriers. They can also create a problem in communication. But here we are going to talk about those barriers which are not related to these things. We assume that our grammar is correct. We assume that our punctuation is correct most of the time. So here, uh, obviously in physical barrier, these will also create problem, but here generally we are going to focus on those barriers which are related to certain other things. These are those barriers which are not in your control. Even if you create 100% perfect communication scenario or situation, still it is impossible that your message is understood 100%ly. Remember, mind it. So let's see what kinds of barriers we have. You will find different data, different material on internet and books, but here you will find three main groups of barriers. Number one is psychological barrier. So in generally we can say psychological barrier is related to your mind. Semantic barrier, in simple words you can say it is related to meaning. And physical barrier, it is generally related to physical appearance of your message or your personality. All right. So these are three general barriers. Now we are going to discuss them one by one. So our first barrier is psychological barrier. And psychological barrier can be divided into three other groups, three other categories. Number one is emotional barrier. Number two is selectivity barrier. And number three is perceptual barrier. Now we see what they are. So, if we see what is emotional barrier and its causes. First, we understand what is emotional barrier, and then we will talk about its causes. In simple words, when your emotions, your feelings block communication, either on the part of sender or on the part of receiver. In both cases, your emotions and feelings can block or stop your communication. So, that emotion or feeling is your emotional barrier. Let's see, as a speaker, when you are talking about something and you yourself are not sure that whatever you are saying is correct, you cannot lead other persons to understand that yes, this idea is correct. Similarly, you like someone, you dislike someone. If you have to communicate with someone whom you don't like, obviously your relationship will create a problem. You will create a havoc there. But on the other hand, if someone you like someone and you are communicating with someone, so the situation will be different. Similarly, emotions are based on gender. Emotions are based on race. Emotions are based on even color. Emotions are based on language, on religion or ethnicity. All these can create emotional barrier. Let's suppose someone, so it is reasons too. So see, like you are gender biased, you are you claim that yes, male dominance is required and male should always dominate. So if your boss is a female, you will never cooperate with that female because your emotions are blocked because of gender biasness. Similarly, on the basis of race, you think that okay, we Aryans are the best race of the world, so we have the right to rule over the world. So obviously, you will not cooperate with other nations. You will brutally kill them. You'll brutally finish them, right? Eh, So, similarly, language can create problem even on the basis of religion. See, this is the world even divided by religions, right? See what's happening in India with Muslims, or um, even what we are doing with our other minorities in our own country. So everywhere in Europe you will find discrimination basis on the religion even, and obviously they create emotional barrier, right? You think okay, he is a Hindu, he is a Christian, I'm a Muslim, so you there are chances, not all people, but there are so many people who will not communicate with the people properly or effectively if they know that okay, he is or she is not from my religion, right? So such kind of uh, things create problem too, and that problem is emotional barrier, right? So now second one is perceptual barrier, and its causes we are going to talk about. First, we need to understand what is perceptual barrier. If we understand the meaning perceptual, it is from perceive, from perception. Perception means how, what you think, what is your thinking, what is your belief, what is your understanding. So when your understanding, when your belief stops your communication, that barrier is called perceptual barrier. And perceptual barrier has three major reasons. So first reason is that different people think differently. See, in the world, you won't find people who think exactly the same. So difference in your thinking also creates problem, blockage, right? Misunderstanding. Clear? So you can see how people think differently. Like if you talk about ISSB exams, there you have one question that is describe a picture. So different people describe picture in different manner. So it means their thinking is playing role. See, uh, there is one document. That document is given to you, and in your company there are different people of different background. Like someone is from advertisement, the other one is from accounts, the other one is from audit. So they will see the report from their own perspectives. Their perspectives will be different, so their understanding will also be different. Similarly, if you see different pictures, like have we had in our childhood, that was uh, there was a picture which you see when we used to see from one angle. It looked like uh, a young boy, and from the other angle it looked like an old man, right? So it means our thinking was creating different shapes. Same is with your, if you see the clouds when we were children, and we used to see clouds, and those clouds we used to find different pictures or different shapes, that okay, he's a horse, or it looks like a deer, or it looks like a bear, right? So your thinking difference in thinking is creating problem. The second one is called the second cause is called um, filling in information. What it is, there is a communication gap created by certain reason, and you try to fill that gap because from your own uh, thinking, from your own understanding. Let's suppose, let me share with you one example, that students were given uh, a picture, and on that picture a there was a word, one and x, or like I or x. So what students were some students told that okay, it is basically I and x, and the writer has forgotten to write s, so it was 6 basically. The other one, or the other group, said no, it is not 6, rather it is Roman number 9. All right, so people understood by from their own uh, thinking, from their own perception, and they filled the gap. You may find so many examples where you are thinking differently, but the response comes 100% opposite to your thinking, right? So third reason is that people also perceive different things or different ideas with the help of their own experience or their knowledge. So, researchers, what they did, they shared a news with respondents that so they were given a picture. They were given they were told a story that there was a man and a boy. They were father and son, and uh, they were going on the road, and they had an accident. Father died at the spot, and the child was sent to hospital, and he had surgery there. He had to had to be operated. So the doctor came, and the doctor refused to uh, operate him by saying that he is my son. So they were asked the relationship between the doctor and the boy. So everyone talked about, okay, he might be his original father, or he might be the boy might be lost somewhere and he was raised by some other people. But no one said that the doctor was the boy's mother. Why? Why? Because our experience tells us that in surgery we don't find female surgeons, right? So that's why their experience blocked their thinking, and they never thought of that. Yes, she might be the boy's mother, right? So it means experience blocked their thinking, block their perception. Right. After perceptual barrier and its causes, let's see what we have. It is selectivity barrier and its causes. Selectivity barrier, what is selectivity barrier? It is from selection. We have to select something by keeping our time and attention in a mind. See, this world is now the world of knowledge and information. You are bombarded with huge information, and you have to pick that information because you don't have time, right? And you cannot attend each and every information. So when you have a lot of information, obviously you have to choose it. See the example of media. We have got more than 100 channels. You have more than 30, 35 channels, news channels in Pakistan. It's your choice what you want to watch, what news channel you want to listen, right? So there is plausibility that you are, suppose you are watching ARY, but on the other hand, on Dunia News there is much better informative program, but because you chose ARY, so you missed that program because of your choice, your selectivity. So your selectivity can also create blockage and barrier. There are three major causes. Number one is timing. Always remember, timing matters a lot, right? So there is a plausibility that your certain action, your certain behavior can create different effect if the time is lapsed. Let's suppose you've, God forbid, your best friend's father passes away, and you go on his father's funeral and you hug him and you condole him. So his feelings and your feelings will be different. But what happens, due to some reasons, you missed that funeral, and after 5 days or 6 days, you go to condole him. So he will not have that, you will not create that effect that you could create on uh, his father's funeral. Similarly, take example of FIR, right? If your FIR is lapsed because of time, you reported or launched an FIR after 2 or 3 days of the happening of incidents, your case will be weak because timing is lost. Time is lost, right? So there's another reason, and that reason is context. Context plays a vital role. See, you go in the market and you find different uh, brands, and different things are related to different brands, different affiliations are related to different brands. Just take 7 Up or Sprite and just put them in glasses, and there is plausibility that not all, but there are so many people who may not be differentiate between 7 Up and Sprite, but when they are in bottles, they will have certain affiliation of taste with that bottle, right? Same is your junk food, right? The people who are very conscious about brands, they follow their context, right? So here, researchers, what they did, they displayed two same pictures uh, of a platform where there's a train and there are people on platform, and in one under the one uh, picture they wrote departure, and on the other picture they wrote arrival, and they asked from the respondents that tell that in what pictures people are sad and in what picture people are happy. So below the uh, picture where it was written that the word departure, people said, okay, people are sad here. And where it was written, uh, where the word arrival was written, people wrote that people are sad here, are happy here, right? So uh, the word departure and arrival create a meaning in their minds, right? Though the pictures were same, nobody judged. They judged from the context, right? What context was provided by uh, the words arrival and departure, they answered according to that. So context also creates problem in understanding the message. So last one is extreme points. Always remember, people are attracted towards extreme points. They extreme behaviors. They forget um, middle type remarks or average behavior. They always remember, if you're abused by someone, right, you will be remembered, right? If someone you can take example of teachers, your school teachers, the teacher who used to beat you brutally, you will always remember him or her till your grave, right? But and on the other hand, the teacher who loved you a lot, right, who treated you very well, he or she will also be remembered till your grave, right? But the two teachers who were mediocres in their behavior, they're always forgotten, right? So these three reasons can create selectivity barrier. So here we have completed psychological barrier. So now we will move to semantic barrier and its causes. Semantic barrier is basically created because of choice of words. What is semantics? Semantics is basically uh, knowledge of words, or when you deal with uh, choice of words, that is called semantics. And when your selection of words creates a barrier in understanding communication, that barrier is called semantic barrier. All right. So there are three reasons of semantic barrier. Number one is connotation. There are two words parallel, they move parallel. That is, one is connotation and the other one is denotation. Connotation is when one word is giving you so many shades of meaning. That is called connotation. All right. Like you can take example of the word cheap. Cheap will give you two shades of meaning. One is inexpensive and the other one is that is a substandard. You say, okay, your shirt looks cheap. So you want to say it's substandard, but the other one understand, or you want to say it's inexpensive, but the other one understands it as substandard. So it can create problem, right? So there are so many examples of connotations. So always remember, connotation always can create semantic barrier. And if you want to avoid it, what you need to do is try to use denotative words, the words which have only one meaning. They don't have more than one meaning. So try to use those words. If you want to say inexpensive, use word inexpensive. Don't use the word cheap, right? On the other hand, let's suppose you overcome this semantic barrier problem, but still there is a chance that you can have semantic barrier problem. You avoid connotation, but still you can have semantic barrier. That is jargon. That one word will give you the meaning, different meaning in one field, and same word will give you the different meaning in different word in the different field, like bull and bear. For a farmer, bull and bear, they are two beasts, they are two animals. Even for a zookeeper, they are two animals. But the person who is sitting in a stock exchange, for him, bull and bear is different. For him, bull when the stock activity is high, and bear when the stock activity is low, right? Similarly, the word credit can be used differently. For a politician, it's a responsibility. Okay, we say that certain person takes credit of bringing technology in this country. But on the other hand, for a banker, credit means loan, or it can be credit can also be when your account, when some money or some um amount of money is some amount of money comes in your account, that is also called credit. Okay, right? So third reason is, after connotation and jargons, third reason is that there are certain words, there are certain terminologies which are always abstract, which are always indefinite. So such kind of terminologies can also create problem. Like I say, okay, you will receive the message soon. Now this soon can be 1 second, this can be 1 minute, it can be 1 hour, it can be 1 day, it can be 1 week. So it's up to the receiver, or even what the sender has in his or her mind. It depends upon him. Similarly, I say there are many people in the hall. So for me, what is many? Or I say few people, or there is a huge number of people. So it depends upon me what I consider huge number or few people or little amount or some amount, right? So these terminologies also create semantic barrier. So the last one is after psychological barrier and semantic barrier, it is our physical barrier. In physical barrier, if you see, when your physical appearance of your audience or your context of your document create problem in understanding communication, that is your physical barrier. And in physical barrier you have two different aspects. One is writing, the other one is speaking. When you are writing, there are different physical barriers. Like let's suppose you are writing on the board, and there is the light is reflected on the board, and there are so many students who can complain that, okay sir, whatever you are writing on the board, we are unable to understand it, we cannot see it. So it's also a barrier in writing. You can take example of prescriptions of doctors. You can't read what is written on their prescription, right? So their poor writing can also become a physical barrier in writing, right? Same is your there are other things too, like the photocopy is blur, or it's not clear, so it can become a barrier. Or in there are number of examples which you can think of. So in writing, uh, what you can do is see, poor quality of stationery can be, or inappropriate use of cheap stationery when a glossy printed brochure might be needed to imply prestige, or inappropriate use of a glossy brochure when a simple photocopy might be needed to imply haste. Similarly, uh, your jagged margins, or fingerprints or smudges, they can become the barriers in writing. Now, for speaking, if you see, there are many physical barriers beside those caused by lack of skill, such as mumbling, not enunciating, speaking too quickly, or using distracting gestures. They are all the noises may occur inside the room itself, right, such as hissing ventilation or blowing air conditioning, clattering typewriters, ringing telephones, slamming doors. In speaking, that they can create problems. Even your if you are calm and you are very serene, but still these can create problem, right? Finally, your message may be blocked because the people in your audience are uncomfortable physically. Your atmosphere, your climate is not good, like temperature is very high or temperature is very low. It's very cold, it's very hot in the room. Again, they can they can be there can be physical disturbance. It is physical disturbance. Similarly, timing also matters. If you are asked to listen to someone at 8 o'clock, you are having class at 8 o'clock at night, so it will be difficult for you because that time doesn't suit. You are physically you are exhausted. Similar, right? So that is all about different barriers. And if you understand these barriers, you can communicate effectively. You can create a better uh, communication. You can create an effective message if you are familiar with such barriers, and you can try to avoid them. I hope you understand this lecture. Allah Hafiz.